In the middle of a frozen forest, a man returns to his lonely cabin, only to find the fire burning, and someone already inside. Not a thief, not human. Curled beside the flames is an alien girl with glowing skin and terrified eyes. She doesn't speak. She doesn't move. But outside, something else is coming. And it's not here for her safety. It's here to erase her. And now, him too. If you're new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. The snow fell softly through the tall pine trees as Noah drove his old truck down the narrow path that led to his cabin deep in the forest. The world was quiet except for the crunch of tires over frozen ground and the soft whisper of wind through the trees. He liked it that way, quiet, cold, simple. After years of war, of cities that never slept, of orders barked through radios and cries echoing through broken buildings, the silence of the woods was the only sound he trusted. His cabin was small, made of old wood and stone, tucked between tall rocks and shadowed trees. It was far from any town, far from any people, just how he wanted it. But tonight, something felt wrong. Even before he reached the cabin, he noticed it. The air was too still. The wind had paused like it was holding its breath. When he stepped onto the porch, he saw it clearly. The lock on his door was scratched, bent slightly, like someone had tried to break in but didn't want him to notice. His hand hovered over the handle. His other hand reached slowly for the old rifle that hung by the door, just inside. He pushed the door open. The inside was too warm. He hadn't left the fire going. Muddy footprints, half melted, led across the floor toward the back of the cabin. Silent, slow. He followed them, his heart steady, his senses sharp. Near the old wood stove, half covered in a torn blanket, a small figure lay curled up, not moving, not making a sound. Her skin shimmered, in the firelight, soft gray, almost silver, not human, not even close. Her body was thin, her arms shaking, and when he stepped closer, she looked up. Her eyes were large, glowing faintly with a light he couldn't explain. The moment they met his eyes, she froze, like a deer caught in a trap. Her breath caught, in her throat, and her whole body tensed. She didn't look scared in the normal way. It was worse than fear. It was panic. The deep kind. The kind that said she wasn't supposed to be here. Like she knew she was already doomed. No one didn't move. Neither did she. He kept his hands open, his voice soft. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said slowly. She didn't blink, didn't speak, just stared at him like she was waiting for something worse to arrive. Then he noticed the burns on her hands, the way her arms trembled. She hadn't eaten, she hadn't slept. She was freezing before she found the fire. But none of that scared him as much as the way she kept glancing at the window. Her eyes didn't search for hope. They searched for danger. Something in the woods. Something worse than him. Outside, the wind picked up again, brushing snow off the trees. He closed the door, slow and careful, and the moment it clicked shut, a howl echoed through the forest. Not a wolf. Not a storm. Something deeper, something angry that had just missed its chance to come inside. Noah's fingers tightened around the rifle. He didn't know who she was, didn't know where she came from. But something deep inside him stirred, the same part of him that had kept him alive in deserts, in ruins, under fire. It told him one thing, clear as ice. She wasn't alone, and now, neither was he. The fire crackled softly in the corner of the cabin, but it did little to ease the tension that now hung between Noah and the strange girl by the stove. She hadn't moved since he first saw her, still curled up beneath the blanket, like she didn't know if this place meant safety or danger. Her glowing eyes followed every small movement he made, not with curiosity, but with quiet fear. She didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't even ask for food. Her body was still, but her eyes never rested, She kept watching the door, the windows, the shadows as if something might burst through at any moment. No one tried not to spook her. He moved slowly, setting a can of soup on the small table, then backing away to give her space. She didn't touch it, only stared at him, her eyes filled with a feeling he couldn't name. Not hate, not trust, something in between. Time passed like snow drifting down outside, slow, quiet, and cold. Just past midnight, when the fire had turned to soft red embers, a sound broke the silence. A low humming, deep and strange, rolled through the trees. It wasn't wind. It wasn't thunder. It sounded almost alive. No one stood and stepped outside. The cold hit his face like a slap, but he didn't notice. Above the trees, a faint light moved across the sky, smooth and silent. Not a plane, not a satellite. Inside, the girl stood by the door, her eyes glowing brighter than before. She whispered a word over and over again in a voice that shook. No one didn't understand the language, but he understood the meaning. It was a warning. She turned and dug through a small satchel she had carried. From it, she pulled a strange device, small and broken, with black wires and glowing edges. She placed it on the table and tried to fix it. Her hands shook as she connected pieces and adjusted tiny switches. Sparks shot out once, then died. The thing was badly damaged. Burned, on one side. No one watched her work, not interrupting. He felt something in his gut tighten. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't meant to call for help. It was meant to stop something. She picked up a piece of charcoal from the fireplace and began to draw on the wooden floor. Not pictures, not words, symbols. Fast, sharp, urgent. Jagged, circles, lines like claws, eyes wide open, staring. Then she drew something that looked like a human figure. Small, alone, next to the other marks. She pointed at the trees, then at herself, then slowly at no one. A chill ran down his back. She wasn't just hiding. She had brought something with her, and now he was part of it. When morning came, the sky stayed heavy and gray. The sun never broke through the clouds. No one stepped outside to get more firewood. His boots crunched on the snow. Then he saw them. Tracks, wide, deep, and wrong. Not his, not hers. They circled the cabin in a perfect path. Not close to the door, not walking away, just circling, watching. He crouched near one and placed his hand inside it. The shape was strange. 3 marks in each step, not quite claws, not quite toes. Whatever had been out there had moved heavy and silent, like a predator, like something that didn't belong to this world. He followed the trail to the edge of the forest, but it vanished as if the thing had lifted into the air. He scanned the sky. Only clouds, only silence. Back inside, he tried to stay calm, but the girl, Tyra, that's what he decided to call. Her in his mind must have noticed something change in his face. She stood up, walked over, and picked up the charcoal again. She added to the drawing from the night before. This time she drew a shape with long wings, floating in the sky. Under it, she sketched lines, like claws or beams, reaching down. And, at the end of each line, a figure like her, dangling, caught. Then she drew one last thing. A circle, solid and dark, around the cabin. And inside it, one figure. Not her, just him. Her eyes met his, glowing faintly. She whispered another word. Again, he didn't know it, but he didn't need to. The sound in her voice told him everything. It meant trapped. Or maybe marked. Tara hadn't just brought fear to his door. She had brought something that now saw him too, and it was getting closer. In the silence between the trees, something waited. Something that did not forget. And now, it knew where to find them. Sky never cleared that morning, and the forest remained wrapped in a pale gray light that felt more like memory than day. No one packed quickly, not needing to explain anything to Tara. She already knew. Her glowing eyes stayed focused, her body trembling from cold and fear, but she moved with purpose. The cabin no longer felt like shelter. It felt like a trap waiting to snap shut. They left before sunrise, moving through the woods without speaking, the snow crunching beneath their boots. Tara wore a thick coat that was far too large for her, the sleeves hiding her small burned hands. She held the broken beacon tight to her chest, as if letting go would end everything. Noan led the way, choosing old paths he had once used to avoid people. Narrow trails hidden between frozen rocks, beneath fallen trees, and through dry creek beds. They crossed a frozen river where the ice groaned like it hated them. Halfway, across, a strange sound returned, deep and low. Not wind, not animal, but mechanical, almost alive. A shape glided through the sky above, black and smooth, hovering without wings, scanning. A red light blinked beneath it. Tyra gasped and dropped flat into the snow, pulling no one with her. They crawled to a snowbank, covering themselves with pine branches and silence. The red light swept past, pausing on the spot where they had just stood. The snow sparked faintly, and then the drone moved on, disappearing into the clouds. They didn't wait. They ran deeper into the trees until breath was all they could hear, until their legs shook. The trees twisted in the storm, and sometimes when no one looked back, he swore he saw shapes moving. Tall, thin, too quiet. They didn't chase. Not yet. But they watched. By nightfall, they reached the edge of a hill where a cave was hidden behind a wall of fallen stones. It had once been a fox den, but over time, erosion had carved it into something deeper. They crawled inside, and no one lit a small fire, careful to keep the smoke low. Tara sat near the flames, her knees to her chest, the beacon in her lap. She looked smaller than ever, her silver skin dull in the flickering light. She stared at the fire, not sleeping, not resting, just waiting. Noan didn't ask questions. He sat at the entrance, rifle across his lap, eyes fixed on the woods. He could feel it. Whatever hunted them hadn't given up. It was just waiting for the right time. The next morning they moved again, walking for hours until they reached a place that only Noan knew. A ridge stretched ahead, and at the far end stood something that looked like a hill, but wasn't. It was metal and concrete, buried beneath snow and time. A relic from the Cold War, an old bunker, built before either of them was born, forgotten by everyone else. No power, no lights, no warmth. But it had steel doors and silence. Inside, the air was dry and stale. No one lit, too old. Lanterns that still worked. Shadows danced on the walls. Tara ran her fingers along the concrete, pausing at marks that had faded long ago. She looked like she remembered them, or dreamed of them. She sat near the back wall, opened the beacon, and started working. Faster now, like she was racing against time. The pieces clicked together slowly, wires glowing, parts sparking. No one crouched beside her and asked, "Who's after you?" She didn't answer in words. Instead, she drew symbols in the dust, lines that spiraled inward, circles broken by sharp edges, and at the center, a small figure. She placed her hand on her chest. Then she drew a shape with long arms and many eyes. She touched her head, then shook it. He understood. She wasn't just a fugitive, she was made, not born, created by something, used as a tool, a control unit maybe, trained to obey. But something had changed. She had broken free. And they wanted her back. Not to forgive, but to erase. The beacon was her only hope. Not to call for help, but to stop the signal that bound her. To say, in a voice only machines could hear, "I am no longer yours." But as she connected the final piece, the ground trembled. Not an earthquake, not the wind. Something was near. Something that had followed them through ice and bone. And now it had found them. The Reapers were here. The first sign was the shaking, soft at first, like a low breath moving through the floor of the bunker. Noan stood with his rifle in hand, his eyes fixed on the heavy steel door. Tyra crouched near the wall, her hands pressed flat against the concrete as if she could feel the earth speaking. The sound that followed wasn't loud, but it felt wrong in every part of the body. It was a hum. not from any machine known to humans. It slid into the bones, made the teeth ache, and blurred the edges of memory. The steel door pulsed inward, once like something enormous had pressed against it gently, testing its strength. The lights flickered. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then silence. Pure, terrible silence. And in that silence came a soft clicking like dry bones tapping on stone. It came from the other side of the door. Then, a single word, spoken not with a voice, but with a twisted sound forced into something like language. Return. Tara flinched, her body folding into itself. Noan stepped forward without thinking and placed himself between her and the door. He didn't know if the thing out there could hear him or care, but he said clearly, "She's not yours." The door bent inward again, harder this time. Then, with a noise like metal being torn apart by cold hands, it folded in on itself and fell forward. Smoke filled the entrance, and through it stepped a figure unlike anything Noan had ever seen. Tall, thin, armored in black, that seemed to drink the light. Its limbs were long and sharp, its face a smooth, glass-like surface that showed no expression. It tilted its head as if listening to something that wasn't in the room. Then it moved. Fast. Too fast. Noan fired 3 shots. The first bounced off, the second made it stumble, and the third hit something at its side. The creature let out a shriek, not of pain, but of anger, and lunged. Noan dove aside, reloading as the thing tore a long crack into the wall where he'd been standing. It was strong, almost silent and full of hate. But it was focused on him, not Tyra. And she saw that. She stood, her eyes glowing brighter than ever, her hands pulsing with soft light. She didn't run. She didn't scream. She walked toward the Reaper slowly, her voice low and steady. She spoke words that weren't English, weren't even sound in the way humans used it. It was more like a feeling, a song made of memory and will. The Reaper froze in place. Its limbs trembled. Its head twitched once. It turned toward her and dropped to one knee. Noan stared in shock. The rifle in his hand shook slightly. Tyra stepped closer and placed her hand on the creature's head. "Override," she whispered. And it obeyed. Her knees buckled. She had spent nearly everything in that one moment. But she stayed standing. Outside, more movement came. 5, maybe 6 more shadows in the trees, circling. Other Reapers, hunting. She turned back to the one she had overridden and said something. Else, it shook, then charged out of the bunker into the trees. Moments later, the sounds of battle echoed through the forest, metal clashing with metal, cries that didn't sound human. Noan grabbed Tara as she stumbled. "Can you move?" he asked. She nodded weakly. He led her through the back of the bunker, through a small tunnel he had sealed off years ago. It took all his strength to tear it open. On the other side was a narrow path into the woods. They ran. He held her hand, guiding her over frozen roots and under bent branches. Behind them, the Reapers fought each other. Tara had given one of them a choice, and it chose to protect her. It chose to fight its own kind. They reached a high ridge just as the sounds of battle faded. Ahead was a frozen valley untouched by machines or war. They collapsed beside an old tree, breathing hard. Tara pulled the broken beacon from her pack and handed it to Noan. He looked at it, then at her. Her lips moved slowly. "Finish it," she said. The small black square she had given him earlier was the final key. He placed it inside the beacon, and a soft hum filled the air. It wasn't loud, but it was final. Somewhere far away, maybe even across stars, Reapers paused. Data chains broke. Command lines vanished. Some would stop, some might disappear, and some maybe would begin to wonder. The hum faded. Tara let out a long breath. Her body leaned against Noan's shoulder. "It's over," she whispered. He wasn't sure if it truly was. But for now, under the cold sky, they were alive, and for the first time, free.